Hello.
I'm so excited that we could finally do this. I've been wanting to have you on for a while, and I don't want to be selfish and take up the whole session just talking about myself and having my whole human design done. And while I do want to dig into that a little bit because I think it'll be fun, I want to just hear how you got started in what you're doing now. What was the evolution of your career like to getting to where you are now?
Yeah, so I, in true 3-5 fashion, just like you, I actually
Amazing.
did a bunch of things before I got to here. Um, Ultimately, I, got into university to go and do psychology. I did what we call in Australia, deferred that for a year, got my first job in advertising in the media industry because both my parents did it. And
Mm-hmm.
I did that for quite a long time until at 28, burnt out, depressed, and living in a panic attack, I
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like, something's got to change, something's got to give. And this is the moment that I started to really discover the power that lay within me. Because I was given a diagnosis that I was going to have to live with depression and panic disorder for the rest of my life. But something deep inside of me was like, nah, I think there's another way I think I can heal myself. So this was the catalyst for me to go on this, well, huge adventure, really understanding why I do what I do and how I can change that. Because I knew in my heart that I could heal my mental health. And I knew that advertising, because I felt like I was selling my soul to the devil, I knew that there was something more out there for me. So I started to learn about human behavior. I started to understand the science behind happiness. I started to understand the brain and neuroplasticity, really dived into what it means to be human, and at the same time, learning to take my power back. Now, in this journey, I actually transitioned out of the advertising industry and I became a master coach, spending 3 years studying everything to do with human behavior, and popped out the other end, created this beautiful little organic corporate business. I'd healed my mental health. I'd healed my marriage at the time. I'd moved from one state to another state and was living in Sydney with my husband and 2 kids. And I still had this hole, like there was something missing. And the best way I could articulate that was, it was like I was this close to my purpose, but I wasn't quite fulfilling it. And that's when human design actually came into my life. And I was super resistant at first. I didn't like the negative language. It was a little bit too woo-woo for me because I was absolutely spiritual and had been for decades, but I was totally in the spiritual closet. Like I wasn't telling anyone or my
Yeah.
clients. So when human design came along, I actually made a commitment to the universe that because of the way this was delivered to me when I was down on my knees, begging the universe to be very obvious about what this missing piece was. And it brought me human design in a very obvious way. So I committed to doing my experiment. And as soon as I started to do my human design experiment, I couldn't believe the shifts and the change in my life so quickly because I was already a master of human behavior. I already knew how to change my behavior or align my behavior or help my clients. But
Mm-hmm.
this was another level. And then I finally bit the bullet and I introduced it with my corporate clients, like my CEOs and, very masculine men, thinking that they were going to think I was crazy. And they didn't. They loved it so much and they wanted me to not only help them lead and be better leaders, but also to help them be better partners, mothers, fathers, all sorts of things. So then I just couldn't let it go. It was kind of became my journey, and now I feel like it's not so much human design, but I've learned to follow my strategy and my authority, my soul, my heart. And yeah, now I just feel like I just walk the path that's put out in front of me.
Yeah, it's really like this conversation is coming at such a good time. I actually had a session with my therapist today, and we were talking about how I can so rationally know sometimes, like, most of the time what the right thing to do is, but this inner child steps in and waits for kind of someone else to rescue it, and that's like a whole total personal thing, but it's basically like I'm letting the emotional side of my thinking take over the rational side of my thinking, and like it's so important to be aware of those things. And now I'm learning that obviously human design is something that can tap you even closer into knowing yourself on a more cellular level. So first, I guess, give me like a 101 on what human design is, like a crash course on it. Yeah.
Love it. But before I do, I'm going to respond to something that you just said
Please,
very
please.
specifically for your design, because this is why I find it, as a behavioral coach, this is why I find it so powerful. Because what we can do with human design, and I also integrate the gene keys into it as well, is that we can take these moments in time, and we can take these experiences where we have the inner child coming out, and we can actually find very specifically where that might be playing out. Now, first and foremost, the obvious one with you is because you're an emotional manifester, it's this understanding that you actually have a mechanical wave. And this is important. It's a mechanical wave, because what we're taught about emotions is we're taught that we have a thought, and if that thought sticks around, it becomes a feeling, and then it becomes an emotion, and then it becomes a mood, and so on and so forth. So on some level, that presupposes that if we master our thinking, we master our emotions. Now, for you and I, both being emotional beings, that's just not entirely true. We can master our stories and the meanings that we apply to the emotions 100%. That's where our power lies. However, we are always in a mechanical emotional wave, meaning that we will always have highs and we will always have lows, and there will be cycles within cycles of those highs and lows. And what's important for us to understand is that when we're feeling the high highs or the low lows, not to attribute greater meaning to it. This is the time that perhaps our inner child will come out a little bit more, but it's just important to go, hey, there she is. There
Right.
she is. She's just playing a game, she's feeling needy right now, but not acting on it, not, being the witness of the thoughts as opposed to actually acting on it. So these are the ways that human design can really help us, because it gives us our energetic blueprint. And this kind of leads into your question. So human design itself is a synthesis of 4 ancient wisdoms. That is Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, which is all about the 64 ways that a human can transform and change. It has also been mapped back to our human genetic codon. So that's a whole nother conversation, which is very fascinating. The Hindu chakra system and the Kabbalah tree of life. So all 4 of these systems are all about, or at least wisdoms, are all about our unique energy, how it moves, how it flows, how it shines, the shadows of it, all the expressions of it. So what human design is effectively our treasure map, the map of our energy that gives us access to the treasure that lies within us. So once we start to understand our human design, we really understand the energy that is influencing and informing the behavior that we end up doing in our life.
Or yeah, exactly. Acting on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's simply put, that's human design, but it's basically our roadmap. It's our blueprint. And I love the whole quantum physics. I really love understanding how the universe works. And one of the things we hear over and over again with all of these people, and this is, it's always also in the manifesting world, is authenticity. When we are aligned to our authenticity, then we can create a life beyond our wildest dreams, or heaven on earth. And ultimately, our authenticity, that's our human design, is the map to our authenticity.
Well, yeah, what I was just going to say was, how does one find their authenticity if they don't necessarily know it? I think that we're all searching for that, who we really are, what is really important to us, how we really should be spending our time. And me, even as like a middle-aged woman, I still feel like I'm searching for that. So basically, what's the path to finding out human design? Is there a test? Is it like, how do you find it out?
Yeah, cool. So super easy. You need your accurate time of birth,
Mm-hmm.
obviously your birth date, the city you were born in, and the country you were born in. And then, I mean, look, you can just go to my website if you want to and get your free chart. It's that simple.
Okay, amazing.
And then you can, once you put those details in, and you do need an accurate time of birth. So for those of you that don't know your accurate time of birth, you can go and head over to my Instagram, and it's pinned at the top of my Instagram of how you can get your time of birth, because depending on what country you're in, or there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do it.
Okay.
And yeah, then you just put it into the software, and you're going to end up getting your human design chart, your natal chart, or what we call the body graph, once you put those details in.
So can we just do it really quick? I know I could probably do it myself, but then we can
I've got your chart here.
Oh,
right
you
in
already
front of me.
do. So yeah, so 8:08. All you need is the time and your birthday. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Time, your birthday, and then the city. And so I've got LA, obviously in the US.
Okay. So then what shows up?
So you are an emotional, as I was talking about, an emotional manifester, and I'll get to what that means in a minute. And you've got a 3-5 profile and cross of consciousness. So these are kind of our high level things that, honestly, if we understand our type, our strategy, our authority, and our profile, like, you really don't have to go much deeper than that. However, it's a little bit addictive. And if you really want to give yourself like the ultimate permission to be you, then you'll start diving into all of your gates and your channels and the nuances, because ultimately what it's going to do is it's going to set you free. It's going to really help you understand that the way you do things and be you is exactly the way that the world wants you to be in the world. That's how you serve. So it's really beautiful. So first and foremost for you, you're a manifester. So manifestors come in about 10%, just under 10% of the global population. And you guys are here to initiate and inform. That's your strategy. And what that actually means is that you guys are the people who start the fire, who start the movement, who start the idea. Oftentimes the way your energy will work is because it comes from this creative urge from source, is all of a sudden you'll just feel like, oh my God, I've just got to go do this thing. I've just got to go and create something. And you'll go off and you potentially will even shut yourself in a room, or you'll send yourself on an adventure or something where you just have this energy that moves through you that just has to start this thing, that has to start to build this thing. And through that process, as part of your strategy, so that's initiating, is informing. So all manifestors and manifesting generators, they must inform. And all that means is, I like to say it as, it's just declaring the direction of your energy, because it's not asking for permission. Let me be very clear. But it's kind of saying everything from the simple thing like, oh, honey, I'm just ducking down the street to get some apples, to I've just had this idea, I need to go and work on it. I'll let you know later where I'm at. So it's really learning to inform. And I mean, I live in a household of manifesting generators, and we all just kind of talk at each other, and it makes us really happy and peaceful because we know where all the energy is going. Does that resonate with you?
It totally does. I mean, I have always felt and said, like, preached about manifesting, the power of manifestation, and me, like, actually really, as cliche as it sounds, like, putting out there what I want. And then now I'm trying to really be in the present and realize that what I have right now is what I had manifested so long, and not constantly be in the future mindset of, okay, now what's next? Like, really trying to appreciate each like step that I take. But huge manifester and huge, I feel like for me, obviously being creative is everything, and like sharing that in an innovative way has always been what I've wanted to do. Like, the reason why I signed on to do the TV show was essentially so that I could eventually start my fashion business, So I was already seeing things happen for myself, and and making them happen through being creative. So for sure, definitely me. Yeah. I don't know that I'm in that kind of a household now, but I feel like I was in that household when I was younger. But I'm one of 5 kids. So there's probably so many different birth charts and birds chirping around in the house. But like, especially for me, what's interesting is at the end of the night, I get this like surge of energy where I want to be like talking and telling Timmy all the exciting things that happened that day, or new ideas that I've had, or it's like this second wind that I get in the evening that I've noticed.
Yeah. So what is actually really cool about what you just said is, and this is super, so everyone listening, I don't want to fry your brain. This is like super deep. This is once you start to go much deeper into your chart. But
Yeah.
what's really interesting about what you just said is you're referring to a part of the chart that is called your PHS, your primary health system. And as you said, like I just get this surge of energy as soon as the sun goes down or late at night. I'm like, oh, I'm curious if you've got what we call indirect. And you actually do have indirect light, which means you're a person that takes in and digests, whether that's food, whether that's life, opportunities, experiences, the best when the sun is down. So this is actually a time that you really thrive when the sun is like before the sun comes up in the morning and after it goes down at night. And it actually is an area that I highly recommend experimenting with because it can really help you calm the nervous system when you're in alignment with your PHS. So yeah, it's very cool that you even just spoke like that's actually really in alignment with you to come alive when the sun goes down.
I know, it's so interesting. And then I'm like, well, and I usually feel really lethargic in the morning and like early afternoon. And so I'm like, maybe I just need to shift my working hours. But these are obviously conversations that I would never have unless I'm learning all of this about myself. But what's so cool about this is that it's not like, it doesn't feel woo woo. Like it really does. Granted, it's based on these certain specific things, which I also want to get into, like what's the meaning behind what's the energetic meaning behind these things. But without boring everyone, was there anything else in my chart that you thought was interesting to go through?
Well, I think it's important to understand like this, your profile. So our profile are the 2 numbers that we have, and you and I actually have the same profile. We're both 3 5s. And a line 3, and it's interesting as well because you actually have in a part of your chart, which is called your design earth, but it's also what's going to make you feel the most fulfilled on the inside, which is a gate that's all about adventure. And the line 3 is all about adventure, both about experience. The line 3 is the experimenter. Like we're the people that will tend to be very resilient because we kind of fall down and get back up. We like poke things to see if they'll break. And we're the people that will also call out what doesn't work. We're the first people to go, yeah, we know that doesn't work because we've tried it, you know. And the line 3s can be those people that others are very drawn to because they literally have walked in most people's shoes. They've had a lot of adventures, a lot of misadventures. And they're people that will tend to want to live a non-conventional life. They don't want to conform to this one pathway. They really want to travel a lot and they want to choose the way they live, and they want to they'll also be between being a line 3 and a manifester. You're probably the sort of friend that you may have made friends with someone at the age of 5 and you were the best friends till you were 10, and then you don't see them for a decade, and then you do see them and it's right back exactly the way it was before you'd had the big break. Because manifestors, their energy, it's what we call independent. So they don't actually need energy from other people. So they can quite happily kind of walk their path and not feel the need to be drawn back to others. That doesn't mean that they don't want other people. Of course they do, but they can be very energetically independent.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Yeah.
And just with a line 5, and then I will then let you actually speak.
No, I love this. I also just know, I think it's interesting, obviously, for me, and I do think it will be interesting for listeners to hear like all this insider info about me. But whatever you want to share, I want to learn about you too. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is great because the line 5 as well. The line five is this energy that is very driven to have an impact. They will tend to be global leaders. They're people who they're very solution oriented. They also kind of have this beacon. And the beacon that we walk around with is that unresourcefully, I am the savior. I am the rescuer. Resourcefully is I can solve your problems if you're the right person for me and I have boundaries and I'm going to enter into that according to my authority. So what can tend to happen with a line five is you are constantly helping and supporting others, solving problems, being the shoulder to cry on. But oftentimes you don't have that in your life. So it's super important that line fives have other line fives in their life so that they get the same love and nurturing and leadership as they give out. It's super, super important. And these really are the people that are they're driven to have a big impact globally.
That's interesting. So I feel driven, and I do feel like I am talking to so many different people at all day long, and I do feel like we're solving problems or working through things, or yes, that's definitely a role, but the leadership part is where I find myself feeling like I want to be a leader, but I don't always know how.
This is such a great statement. Is it cool if I respond to that?
Yes, please.
So I think the biggest thing that I would say to you, like if I was sitting here coaching you, I would say the first thing I want you to do is redefine what leadership means to you. Because I would say that the listeners and myself would argue that you're already being a leader by the fact that you're sharing your life on a global scale and you are being open and vulnerable and honest. Surely that's leadership. Now, one of the things we have to be very, very aware of is that is not what we're conditioned to believe is leadership. We are conditioned to believe that leadership is some old white guy telling us what to do.
Right.
So the first thing that I would encourage you to do is to redefine leadership. What does leadership mean to you? Because you're already being a powerful leader. It's just that the way you choose to lead and the way that you're designed to lead is very different to what you've been taught is leadership.
I know so much of what I feel like I want to be is just because of, I don't know, it's like these subconscious expectations, and it's not until you really tune in and have these conversations that you realize like you are actually on the right path if you just keep your head down and stick to what feels good to you. It's like, it's just always such a good reminder, which is why I love having people like you on this podcast, because they're also like mini therapy sessions for me and can be super cathartic, but it's true. And it's also annoying, this thing that I do where like I'll say to you, I want to be a leader. And then you'll say those things to me and I'll be like, oh yeah, I know that. And I feel that because I am able, like I said, I'm a logical person and I'm able to grasp and take in my wins. And like, I understand what I'm doing out in the world, but then I'll talk to people like you or people with more expertise or that I think are smarter or that I don't know if it's like an intimidation or something. And then I give myself less credit and put myself down a little bit more. And I like don't even realize that I'm doing that.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
well,
yeah.
From a human design perspective, what I would guess that is a good dose of people pleasing. And the reason for that, the purpose you probably created that for as a child is being a manifester. One of the things that the guy who actually brought human design to the world, Ra Uruhu, talked about with manifestors is he would say, just give a manifestor child a mobile phone, they'll be fine. Because the manifestor energy is really independent and it's clever and it's logical and it's also collective and it's also intuitive and it really knows where it's going, not from the mind, even though your mind plays a very big role in the work that you're here to do in the world. But the manifestor child is this child that can't be reined in. It can't be told what to do. It has its own it marches to its own beat.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that manifested children and manifesting generators, if there's MGs out there listening, one of the things that you realize pretty quickly is that when you walk into a room, people notice. And what happens is, as a manifester, you are specifically on the planet to inspire your people into action. And the key word is your people, because you equally have to disengage the people that are
That are
not your
not your
people,
people. It's so true.
as well as, inspiring the ones that are. So what happens to manifestors really, really commonly in childhood is they make themselves small. They make themselves people pleasers because they see their big energy has this impact on other people, and it makes them uncomfortable. It makes them feel like, oh, I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. I don't want my success to make someone else feel small. So they will just tend to make themselves smaller, and they will then tend to people please. And the truth is that you're, as at the highest level as a manifestor, you are here to inspire people into action. And the way you do that is by being unapologetically you. And at the end of the day, you have a big aura, you have a big presence, you've got that line 5, so you want to have that global impact. Like, these are things that you are going to be larger than life, but it's the fact that you need to be okay with that. You need to love, trust, and accept that, okay, it's so okay that I'm a little bit larger than life, and these people don't like that about me. That's cool. I've just got to let that go.
Right. It's so true. It's really so much about finding out who you are and then owning that. And also, though, accepting certain, and I don't want to say flaws, but working on yourself too, correct? Because like there's so much of this that is you're this is your human design and you're born with this, but I'm assuming that this is then also just a catalyst to how you can essentially change and improve.
100%. I mean, in everything that we do, from a human design perspective, we can be doing it from love, which is what we call alignment, authenticity, or we can be doing it from fear, which we call shadow or, conditioned self. So, for example, the shadow of the line 5 is they just want to be liked. They just want to be liked. But really, these are people that are here to have a big impact. They're people that are here to learn how to work with power. They're here to lead. So needing to be liked only shuts them down. So everything that we have in our design, we're also going to see where our shadows lie. And I use the gene keys as well. And I don't know if you know anything about the gene keys or you've spoken about them.
I don't.
So they're amazing. So Richard Rudd, the creator, highly recommend you having him on the podcast. He is incredible, and the gene keys are incredible. But they also show us our shadows. They show us our gifts, and they show us our Siddhic, so our enlightened expressions that live within us. So again, from my perspective as a behavioral coach, like I was always a really good coach, a great coach, in fact. But the moment I integrated human design into it, like I could see the blueprint of the person sitting in front of me. So they could articulate something for me and I could ask questions that are directly related to their shadows. So we can really get in. And so again, human design is such a beautiful self-coaching tool because when you're really honest with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
then you can kind of be like, oh, yep. Like the line 3, these are people that are so resilient. They love new beginnings. They love it. So they're quitters. In their shadow, they'll quit and run away because they're like, oh, it's much easier to quit and run away.
And then I'll just start something else new. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So once we understand both sides of the coin, the light and the dark, and we actually accept that they will always live within us, we can't have one without the other. And then we just choose to embody, let's say 90% of the time, the gifts and these superpowers and allow for a little bit of wiggle room to, do the shadow stuff. Then we really are, becoming the most authentic version of ourselves. And we can really see the truth of potentially what we're wrestling with when we do feel stuck or we feel lost or we don't know who we are or we're at an important pivotal moment. Like for you specifically, you're a few years away from what we call the Uranus opposition. And this is a time of internal revolution.
I'm feeling that. I'm like so in my head right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have just been thinking I'm about to turn 40, and I've heard that this is what starts happening where everything is so deep all the time. And my son is 7, and I'm like already grieving his childhood, and things just feel moving so fast. And there's also environmental things going on too. Like my mom is not well. So all of a sudden I'm having to take care of her, and the roles are switching. And so yes, like I can feel this around me.
And this is going to be for you, it's going to be the next few years. But the thing that I really want you to want you to hear is that modern psychology would have you believe that this is a midlife crisis. And what I want to tell you is it is absolutely 100% not a crisis. It is an opportunity. This is a moment when your heart and your soul, it's like they go into revolution. They go into, hang on a second, I don't want to be the person that you all told me I needed to be to become this or do that or da da da. And the parts of your identity show up, like you talk about, you're already grieving your son's childhood, right? So that's an identity piece. Like your identity is starting to shift. But in this time, as much as it's like, wow, okay, I can feel like I'm going to have to let go of a bunch of stuff. This is also the moment in time where the heart and soul engage with, the planet Uranus, which is all about uniqueness and revolution, to answer the question, okay, well, if I'm not that, who am I? And it's this beautiful time when you're so supported to completely transform your life, to completely transform who you are. As long as you go with the wave, like you will be so taken care of, and you will, become the person that is the more aligned version of you, and let go of so much of the conditioned parts of you.
Well, I'm again so happy that this conversation is happening right now, because it's something that I have been thinking about for a while. And I've been telling myself, like, at points, all of the spiraling can be super overwhelming, and I feel like this sense of burnout kind of. And then at other times it feels very like inspiring and amazing, and I'm like, oh my God, I do have the ability to change. And now look at all these tools that I have as a 40-year-old in order to change that much more quickly or adopt this skill or whatever it is. So I'm definitely like oscillating, but I feel like this just reminding myself that I have the power to like change the course of that. It's meaningful.
I just want to respond to two things you said that are really important for your specific design as well. Number one, burnout.
I was just going to talk about that, just because that's something that everyone I feel like is feeling. And you're talking to me on election day in America. It's like everyone is going fucking nuts right now.
Yeah.
But I was on a plane home from yesterday from New York. I've been going back and forth. And I was like, I texted Timmy as soon as I landed. I was like, I am burnt out, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah. So this is such an important question. From the frame of human design, we actually talk about burnout differently depending on your type. So for you as a manifester, you're what we call a non-sacral being. So manifestors, projectors, and reflectors, they're all non-sacral beings. And the reason why you can feel burnt out is twofold. Number one, that feeling of burnout, that is because you're processing everybody's sacral energy. You take it in, you amplify it, and you reflect it back. So if it's election day and you're out in public, you are feeling everybody's gut reaction to what's going on. You are feeling everybody's, somewhere between frustration and satisfaction. You're feeling all of this passion that's not necessarily yours, but it's amplifying in your body. So that's one reason that you're getting burnt out. And the second is because you actually don't have a defined sacral of your own. And as a manifester, that means that your energy is on when it's on. That's the universe moving through you. That's when the creative spark is there. However, when it's not on, it's really important that you listen to that and you rest and play. Because manifestors can get a bit serious. They can be a bit like, but I've got this mission. I've got to do this thing. but they have to have their downtime. When the creative flow is not on, you must do nothing, relax, play, have the fun, hang out with your son and just have a good time, because your energy is not designed to be consistently available. So if you try to make it consistently available because that's what you were taught at school, because that's what society teaches us, then that's going to lead to burnout for you. So it's very much about learning, okay, the energy is there, I've got it, use it. And when the energy is not there, then it's time to recharge my batteries.
Uh-huh. Are there some is there a type though that has like unlimited energy and never gets burnt out? Like,
So, great question. The simple answer is no. We all get burnt out. However, the caveat is the generators and manifesting generators. Okay. So we're the ones that have the consistent energy. We're the ones that we can work every day if we want to, as long as we're lit up, as long as it's work that we have energy for, that our sacral, our gut says, yaha, I have energy for this, I want to do it, then we can create consistent energy day in, day out. However, what happens in most of the Western world, especially, is that we get these corporate jobs or we get these jobs and we turn up every single day and we do it. But the thing is that our sacral, our motor, never engages because we're not passionate about it. We don't love it. And our body doesn't have energy for it. So the way that a sacral being, generator or manifesting generator, burns out is they do a thing called functional burnout. So when you guys burn out, it's really obvious. Like you're stuck on the couch or you're at the doctor's dealing with something. Whereas with sacral beings, it first shows up as just a lack of passion, a lack of lust for life, a lack of enthusiasm, and they just feel like they're trapped in Groundhog Day. Now, if they keep going, then they're going to end up the same way. But what's important to understand is that for the sacral beings, which is over 70% of the global population, we are actually here building the new world. Whatever we're creating, the generators and manifesting generators are building it. And they're designed, when they're in alignment, they're building it from their passion, from what lights them up, what they're excited by. But most of them aren't doing that. So we're actually creating the energy, the energy of a planet that's burnt out and unmotivated and doesn't want to do it. So it's really, really important for the sacral beings to follow what they have energy for, what lights them up, what excites them.
mm-hmm. And what would you say to someone who feels though like something that lights them up or that they have energy for, that excites them, doesn't necessarily pay the bills? Like if from a coach perspective.
So the first thing that I would do is, because this happens a lot, or the step before this is people say, I don't even know what lights me
I
up.
don't even know. Exactly.
They're so disconnected from their sacral.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing to do is just find the small things that light you up. Can you go to your kitchen cupboard? Like for me personally, something I absolutely love are these chocolates. They're made here in Byron Bay, that you can actually get them in the States now. They're called Loco Love. They're the best chocolates you will ever taste in your entire life. And and I always joke, they're basically a vegetable because they've got no processed sugars in them. They have all these like active ingredients. They're amazing. Anyway, my point is, no one really cares about a chocolate. Like your career or your life does not depend on a chocolate, but it's something small that I'm like, well, there's my sacral has energy for that. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to find the little things that you have energy for, the things that you don't have a big attachment to, and start to realize maybe it's reading. Maybe it's, I don't know, watching Ted Lasso. I'm obsessed with Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is, and it's something that you don't have an attachment to, you don't really care, and you can start to get a feel for that sacral, for that response, because that's what it's all about for the generators and manifesting generators. It's about being in response. And then once you start to build the relationship with your gut, with your sacral, and this enthusiasm, this lit up, this passion, this yes, I have energy, what you're actually going to find is that it will guide you to the work that is correct for you. But in most cases, people have just dialed their sacral right down because they've overridden it for so many years. So they don't even know. They don't
They're
even
not
know what
connecting to what lights them up, yeah, at all. They haven't even given themselves the opportunity to explore.
exactly.
That
So
makes so much sense.
start small. And then the more you listen to it, the more you will find. I mean, I look back to my advertising career. I never once applied for one job. I would just feel like, I think I'm getting a bit bored here. And then all of a sudden, a headhunter would call me and I would be, going and working at a different TV station or a different ad agency because I was just following what I had energy for, even though I had no idea at the time. But it's really like when you listen to that, then the bigger things will show up.
It's so true. It's so true. It's like it's knowing this, but also really listening to your gut and making sure that you're always staying true to yourself and not pushing things down that don't feel uncomfortable. I'm interested in how also human design can play into parenting. I feel like right now my biggest struggle is the kind of coddling that I give him, and I feel like the lack of independence I'm therefore bestowing upon him. And so I'm just curious if you have any tips and how I can take a step back and because I know this is something that my parents did to me, and I'm sure it's something in my chart that I'm why I'm doing it. But please, yeah.
Yeah. Great question. I actually talk a lot about parenting. Human design specifically, when it was actually birthed, one of the messages that came through with it was it's going to be great for all the generations that are on the earth right now, but what the fundamental purpose of human design is for the kids. It's so that the kids can start with their blueprint so they don't get conditioned in the first place, like we've all been conditioned. So with our kids, with human design, it's so beautiful because it gives us some very simple and powerful ways that we can parent our children. So, first and foremost, understanding their type. Do you know what type he is?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so same deal. You just put his details
I
in, and
will.
I can put his details in if you want me to, but it's totally up to you. And then first, we want to understand their type. So their type is going to give us a couple of really important things. So number one, they're going to give us the indicators of how their energy works. So if they're a manifester, they need independence. They need to be allowed to run their own show because that's what manifestors are here to do. If they're generators, then they need to be allowed to burn energy and follow what lights them up. If they're manifesting generators, same deal. These kids need to burn energy, but they also need freedom. Then projectors, these kids need to be seen and recognized, but they don't have consistent energy. You do not want to be putting them in after school sport. And the manifestors are going to be questionable too. You need to really let them lead.
Lead the way.
Um, yeah. And then with reflectors, you have to let them be whoever they need to be on whatever day. Now, this is just a really simple overview, but what that also gives us is an understanding of how we best communicate with them. So if we have a manifestor, a projector, or a reflector, we want to ask them open-ended questions, okay? We want to make sure that we're giving them the opportunity just to almost talk and speak their narrative, and then their answers will come. Manifestor kids, you don't want to tell them what to do. You want to ask them what they want. So when you create boundaries, you just have to create really good, strong boundaries and also be thinking, how can they create freedom within that boundary? Because all kids need boundaries. It's very, very important. Let's say projector kids, they have to be allowed to, because if you have a projector child, then very quickly they will be telling you things about you that you're like, oh my God, how did you know that?
Yeah.
Because they can see deep into others.
I have a feeling that Sonny is a projector child, and I'm looking for his birth certificate. I feel like I should have. I know he was born. It's July 27th, 2017 in Santa Monica.
So Sonny is a 3-5 emotional generator.
So similar to me in the 3-5.
Yeah.
And I'm a generator too, but he's not a manifestor generator.
You're just a manifester.
Oh,
You're
I'm just
just
a
a
manifestor.
manifester.
I'm not a
Yeah,
generator.
yeah.
Okay.
No. So he's a generator. So certainty is the thing that he will need the most as a child.
Certainty.
And really what that means is, and because you are a manifester, you need to inform and be informed. So he's going to be a kid that you probably just want to tell him what's coming. You want to give him the details. He's a 3-5 profile. So as a 3-5, just accept that this kid's going to make a bunch of mistakes. Like he's going to fall down and get back up. But just constantly remind him how resilient he is. Like he's so resilient because he is. Us 3-5s, I mean, the line 3, it's a very, very resilient energy. They're people that will tend to, over time, they're the brave ones. They're the ones that will try things out. They're the ones that will bounce back faster because they're just naturally quite resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And as a generator, an emotional generator, so yes, no questions are really important. Okay. So I said open-ended questions are good for the non-sacrals. So that's the manifestor, the projector, the reflector. But for the generator and the manifesting generator, super important that you ask yes, no questions, because otherwise they can just get overwhelmed.
Uh-huh.
So you could ask a generator, you could ask him, what do you want for dinner?
Uh-huh.
And he'd just be like, I don't know. But if you ask him, do you want lasagna for dinner?
Yes.
And he'll be like, uh-huh.
Yes.
And if you teach him just to be like, like my youngest son, who's a manifesting generator, I just teach him constantly, just give me if you can't give me anything else. So he's really learned to trust his gut. Now, the next thing for Sonny specifically is that he's an emotional being like you. So his decisions need to be made over time. And this goes for you as well. When we have emotional authority, it means that we're waiting for emotional clarity, because emotional clarity kind of feels like, oh yeah, it's obviously this answer. It's obviously a yes. It's obviously a no. But we have to wait over time. So we often need to sleep on it. It does mean that we need to reteach the people around us, because we live in a world that people want answers now. And half the global population are emotional beings, and we are not designed to do it now. We're designed to give you an answer over time.
For me, it feels like for my natural cycle, like how fast people want things done and the expectations, it's too fast. It's too much for my comfort zone.
Yeah. The manifestor energy is really fast, but an emotional manifestor needs time. And there's 50% of the global population that are wrestling with living in such a fast world.
Right.
I'm one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like my energy, my whole chart is very paradoxical. I have the fastest channel in the design, and I also have an emotional authority. So although I can move at light speed and things can happen very quickly, I also need to slow down. I need to go very, very slow in comparison to that, to make the correct decisions for me. So for you and for Sonny, it's super important to remove time pressure. Time pressure doesn't work for emotional beings. Your decisions your clarity will get further away the more time pressure there is on you. So it's just important to let that go. And I think one of the big things to, with their human design, so he is all about responding. Okay, as a generator, just tell him, like, just wait for something to respond to in life. Like, yes, you want to do something because maybe his best mate said, oh, do you want to play hockey? He's like, yeah, I do. Instead of us trying to say, well, we're going to put you into hockey, and he'll have a response to that, sure, or asking him to say what he wants to do, wait for him to respond to life. He could respond to a question that you have. He could respond to something that a friend's doing. He could be watching something on TV or watching a movie that he loves and respond to that. So let him and teach him to be in response instead of initiating, because initiating's your thing as a manifestor, but it's not his thing as a generator.
I'm taking it all in. It is so important. This is so great in terms of obviously knowing yourself and improving, how you connect with yourself in order to be a better parent. But I didn't even think about obviously knowing your child, and then it goes beyond knowing your partners and really just tuning into those things that they need
Yeah.
and respond to. So tell me now, I'm sure your life looks like, are you an active business coach at the moment? I'm like, I want you to be my coach.
Yeah.
So is it mostly like, is it mostly business coaching? Is it mostly life coaching? It runs the
No, so
gamut. Yeah.
such a good question, because the old model that I was trained into, like all of us, was that I needed to really focus on something specific, whether that was, it started off as leadership,
Right.
then it went into more life coaching or performance. It was very performance. I do teach a lot of business stuff, but it's not where I'm really lit up. But for me personally, and I'm a manifesting generator, which means that I take a number of things and then I put them all together.
Yeah.
So the gene keys, human design, and transformational coaching. So that's what I do. And for me personally, what my design is, like my core talent is to work with people to break through. Like that's my core talent. That's what sits in there. My incarnation cross is all about creating the structures, the foundation, the strategy to build what comes after the breakthrough. So for me personally, I I work with people that, effectively come to me via strategy and authority. Like the people that are like, wow, you're the right person for me, as opposed to that old paradigm of like, well, this is specifically the people I help. And don't get me wrong, I have a demographic. We do all of those things. We have to market too. But the beauty of human design is that I have full permission to be me. And my role is to help other people to do the
Be
same
them.
thing.
So, right. It
Yeah,
shouldn't be so prescriptive. It should be very unique based upon the person that you're talking to and what their specific goals are.
exactly.
Completely. Right.
Exactly.
Okay. So then tell me now about this retreat that you did. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, so we run a number of retreats actually. And they're fundamentally human design. They're all about really getting you aligned to your design and having a lived experience, and how you interact. I think one of the beautiful things about our retreats is you get to interact with this group of people as your authentic self, as your human design aligned version of you, which means that once you have this lived experience, it's much easier to go home and be that version of you because you already have a lived experience of it. Um, you know, the technical stuff, yep, we go through all of your design in a lot more detail. We get you really integrating the knowledge, because one of the things for me, and it's a line three thing, so it's a thing for you,
Yeah.
is I need to get people out of here. The knowledge is fantastic, but we
Right.
must integrate it into the body. We must have a lived experience of it, because that's how we learn. So we do that. And then the other thing that's so cool about our retreats, again, this is my part of my design. In my personality sign, I have a gate that's called the gate of community. It's also the gate of friendship. So my energy, without any impact or any influence from my mind, calls together a group of people that inevitably become lifelong friends. And
That's
we have now
amazing.
done so many of these, and every time they find their people, and they, go on this journey with them just as much as, I mean, half of them also become members of my team as well,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
That's
But
so
so
amazing.
but it's that beauty of not getting, like, I don't let my mind get involved. I just let my energy do the work as I follow my strategy and authority. So, yeah, they're super fun. And I always have a massive transformation every single one I run as well. So it's
That's
cool.
so amazing. It's so awesome that the more that you do this work, the more that you're also just able to trust your energy too, and not
Yeah.
have to overanalyze or like sift through all of the layers of our thoughts. You're just
Yeah.
trusting your energy, and that takes a lot of guts, but I feel like with time and education, you can get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this has been honestly such a pleasure chatting with you. I honestly, seriously, like I was so looking forward to this, and I want to chat with you more. So I'll connect with you on the side about that for sure. But tell everybody here just where they can find you and learn more about everything that you're up to.
Sure. So thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been super fun. You can find me on the Human Design Podcast. The on Instagram, I'm the Human Design Coach. And you can find everything on my website, which is emmadunwoody.com. If you go to the website, you put in your details on our free chart, then you will be directed, dependent on your type or your authority, to the correct podcast episodes for you.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, all set up to support you in the beginnings of your human design experience. And I wouldn't be a manifesting generator if I didn't have a number of different options.
Yeah.
I also have a book coming out at the middle of the
Amazing.
year in the US next year, which is Human Design Made Simple, which is super exciting.
Oh, that is so exciting. We need that. We need, like I was saying, the 101 on this. But I'm so glad that we covered what we could in the hour that we had. And everybody go check out her podcast. This has been so, so lovely. Sonny, say hi. My son is like, I just learned all
buddy.
about you.
How you doing?
She said, how you doing?
Good.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Emma, so, so much. I appreciate this more than you know. Thank you.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. And if I can help in any way, just let me know.
I will for sure. 100%. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. See you, buddy. Bye.